Yeah, no, thanks, Brian. Thanks to all you guys for showing such support in our program. And we're in the middle of July and we're talking Clemson baseball. So I appreciate sincerely that that there's even an interest to continue to follow us at this level. And looks like same crowd we had for preseason and postseason. So thank you. To look back, it was an okay year. I guess you could say it was a good year because we have a championship to celebrate and a reason to bring the guys back and the kids back and to celebrate them. When they get their rings at a football game. So I think anytime you celebrate a championship, you can look back at that very fondly. That being said, we finished the year not in Omaha, so Omaha is the standard, and the goal is to ultimately win our program's first national championship. If you don't win a national championship, but you do finish in the College World Series, then you can consider it a great year. So that being said, especially with the momentum we had at the end of the year, I think everyone that inside this room, every one of our players, staff, even fans, supporters, media, everybody, kind of riding that wave, and it felt awesome, and it felt like that was the team that was going to do it and get back to Omaha for the first time since 2010. But ultimately, we didn't. That Saturday game against Tennessee will always be, at least from a coaching perspective, one of those wounds that never closes, never heals. I think of Monday morning quarterback that game every day ever since. But nonetheless, it was great to flip the season around the way we did, to know where we were and how we turned it around and made it something into a positive. That'll be the storyline. And we talked about that at the end of the year. And the look forward is to take the next step and take this program to a level that it's never been before, do something it's never done before. One of those things is to play for a national championship. The other thing is to win a national championship. So that's what's in store ahead. That's the end of the road. That's the destination. And then we always shrink that back down to, we're going to have to build Team 127 foundationally from the ground up. Because this is even the guys that are returning. They're not the same guys. They've had another birthday. They've grown. They've improved. And plus with the new guys we've got coming in, Team 127 is a totally different team. And we'll have to build that team the same way that we did with Team 126. And it's going to be very intentional about all the little things and details that matter, and just to, continue to build the program and create a training environment, especially with what we do here in this classroom about building the person and building the teammate, and ultimately that creates a better team. And we saw those fruits of the labor come to fruition at the end there. Ultimately didn't get it done, but you could still see how culturally with this program it just felt right, looked right, had a bunch of great kids, and that'll be the big challenge for the staff going into this fall. Is kind of with one of the things I always tell them is, we're just a bunch of guys all wearing the same colors right now, and the goal is to truly build a cohesive unit, a very tight circle, truly a team. And to do that, you got to have everybody pulling the same rope, or pulling the rope in the same direction. It takes time, but ultimately that's what we're doing, is building. This program's historic. It's a blue blood, but ultimately we're adding to the program and adding value, and we'll keep those efforts at level 10 at 100%. But it'll be very intentional with the fall. We'll have a lot of talent. We'll probably be one of those teams that's looked at as in the preseason, as one of the better teams of college baseball. But those things don't matter. It'll be about growth and improvement and getting better and finding our limits and pushing past them, and that's what we have to do with the program as well. We know what the limit has been, and we've got to push past it. So a lot to do, excited about it, and look forward to getting these guys back on campus and get going.
How different is it for you now than it was just even 4 years ago with NIL, trying to figure out that kind of money. Scholarships have stayed the same. Transfer portal, how different is it for you once the season ends and you have to kind of navigate all of that?
Yeah, so I think, just philosophically, this will be a good kind of disclaimer because, NIL, you start saying those letters and people they start to get this icky feeling and start cringing. For us, understanding what NIL is. NIL, you could do NIL equals, and for Clemson baseball, NIL equals scholarships. And if I could wave my NIL magic wand, it would be that our players could tell their families and parents that they don't have to take out student loans and they do not have to come out of pocket to pay their bills to come to school, and they can choose Clemson because it's the school they want to go to and their costs are covered. So currently in a 40-man roster, 11.7 of our kids are covered via baseball scholarship and 28.3 kids are paying their own way. That's our current model. That's all of college baseball. And so we are trying to utilize NIL as a means to cover the cost of attendance for our players. It's not, for us, it is not a pay-for-play thing. If a player does so well in our program that he can capitalize on his name, image, and likeness and does that on his own after being established in our program, then great. But in terms of what we are trying to use it for, we're trying to use it so it can cover the cost of their education, which is why NIL for us equals scholarships. And we're just trying to operate more like a head count sport. So it's created a new opportunity to build some relationships with some donors and meet some of our great alums. And that's what I was doing this morning, and that's what I'll be doing tomorrow and the next day and the next day when I'm not recruiting high school kids. We'll be building new relationships with people that are passionate about Clemson and passionate about supporting Clemson baseball, especially in this type of capacity.
When you start talking about that kind of money, what kind of number are you looking at that if I want to cover the other 28.3 to where we don't have to worry about it, what kind of number would you be looking at?
It's north of 7 figures if everyone was going to be covered, because you look at the blend of our roster and say it's 50-50 out-of-state, in-state, and you start looking at the cost of attendance for 28.3 kids, and half of them are in-state and half of them are out-of-state. What does that look like? And it's a big number, but it's not an insurmountable number. And so it's something that we're full tilt, full steam ahead on, and you got some great initiatives that are growing, and what Robert's doing with Dear Old Clemson and with Tiger Impact and now the Positive Impact Fund, and just the arms that have been created to help support this cause. I think Clemson fans, they need to know. They need to get educated on it because it's benefiting the student athletes. And in our case, it's covering their education. So I think that's probably the biggest mindset shift for when people hear those letters NIL and start to go into the pay-for-play thing, which has created problems with tampering and the portal and so on and so on. But for us, it's just focusing on the positives of this. And forever and ever, college baseball has been synonymous with student loan debt, and now we have a thing that can eliminate kids walking out of school with big loan amounts that they're weighted down, and it's a burden for them. We don't want that. We want these kids to be able to come be a student athlete and have their education costs covered.